Well, and I love a good how catch 'em, and that's
Hmm.
what this is. And honestly, our actress here, she is beautifully embodying the character, and the stories make sense in their story. But anyway, let's get to it. Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your Captain Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Maz. Oh my gosh, tonight we are talking about a world of capes and lunatics, of gods and monsters, and as always, lies. Filthy, dirty lies that people tell. But one person always knows when you're lying.
Me.
No, Tristan.
I know.
Charlie, our hero of Poker Face. Tonight's episode, season 1, episode 2. We're reviewing Poker Face. No, the character's name is Charlie. We'll get to all that in a minute.
Man, I can't believe you're in Poker Face.
Anyway, the night shift, wounded and on the run. Charlie is forced to make a pit stop in desolate New Mexico, where she tries to clear the name of a trucker framed for the murder of a local. Our director this week is Ryan Johnson. That's a name people probably have heard of. Writers, of course, include Ryan Johnson, who gets our created by credit. Sorry, scroll down. Alice Jew, it gets a written by, executive story edited by Wyatt Kane, and hardest working person in show business this week, just our regular story editor, is Charlie Pepper. Charlie Cale is the name of our lead character this. And I am very excited about this episode. So let's see here. Well, this is what I find very interesting about this show, and I think it's going to be a pattern we'll see, where it opens up on the murder, and then we get the backstory on the murder, and then we later find out that she had already come to town, and
She's already in the background as these
interacting. Yeah. One thing I like in this is just just how much misdirect there is, how much changing of what they're doing. So to open it up, obviously we have with a sandwich artist TikToker, which I appreciate, and it's one of those things where I wonder, man, is that a product? Did Subway say, hey, we'd like you to put us in the show? And then did they pay extra to have him be a sandwich artist, showing behind the scenes the great work at Subway, or what was he doing?
I'm sure it was a partnership, because I found it strange. I was like, oh, they're really calling it Subway. And the first thing to me was, oh, he really called it Italian urban cheese bread. It's like, that's actually the branded thing of that bread. So
yeah,
it must have been a paid partnership.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. And
that's what was cool about it to me. It's like, you make something out of your own situation, right? Whatever you're in, like sandwich artist may just be like a term that's thrown around, but if you believe in it, if you take it seriously, there's things you can do with that.
Yeah, and this is actually, and it's interesting, because I've watched this episode, and I watched half the next episode, and both are actually food centric episodes. Although next one a little bit more so, and about how subtle differences in things are things, and this is sort of what I think is how her powers work. It is just that she is keenly aware when something subtly is different, something is subtly wrong.
Like, humans have that instinctive thing where they see two circles and a shape underneath it. Our mind wants to see a face. Right? There's that internal sort of drive. Maybe whatever portion of the brain is responsible for recognizing those patterns, she has an overdeveloped portion of that brain. And when she sees
Mhm.
patterns that are out of sync, it's grossly hard to ignore for her. So it might just be
Exactly.
like that sort of a mechanism in the brain.
Hmm. Exactly. And it is fascinating. But when we get into this, but we see our sandwich artist. He goes across the street. We see and I also like this late night camaraderie of people
Mm.
that are working this midnight shift across the street from each other, and they just sort of have these routines, and they know each other because they're the only people that are there. And then you got the one weird creepy guy who sits on the top of the
It
garage
felt
watching
very much
everybody.
like a View Askew production. Like Jay
Yeah,
Silent Bob would be hanging out somewhere, you know.
yeah. But James and Silent Bob aren't necessarily creepy. I don't think.
No. I
You know?
meant just in the sense that Randall's always walking over to the movie,
Oh
or the other
yes.
guy's always walking over to the grocery store, and they work in the same area and they know everybody that works here. Like, when I was a bar back in the day, all the restaurants and all the bars used to know each other. We used to frequent each other's places, and
Oh
so
yeah,
yeah,
no,
that
and
was
I know that, and I remember when I worked for Little Caesars at U of M's food court area, and yeah, Wendy's had come over and would do swaps and trades, and it was a lot of fun. You get a great social camaraderie in those kind of businesses.
yeah.
That said, um, obviously these two they have a flirty thing. I don't think it's really romantic. I think it's sort of like, he's flattered,
I
she's
think they're
flattered.
they're they're both finding that they're open to it,
Well, yeah,
and they're
yeah.
traipsing their way through what that means.
Exactly. And it's like I'm not putting it that they're boyfriend and girlfriend right now. I don't think there's anything heavy in it, but I do think that they're enjoying each other's company. And that's
Right.
that's a great way to start a relationship. Um and we get the whole thing about part of his ritual
I will say
is
I'm glad they chose to feature a brown goth girl. Goth girls are always pale and white, so like to have some representation of the browner goth girls was really nice too.
and you know what's funny about that to me is it, I never realized that because like to me, I mean, I knew goths in high school, but I also lived in Michigan, so it was we did have a lot of Hispanics in Michigan, and so I met goth people of all stripes. But like one of my first big representations of a goth girl on TV was actually the Extreme Ghostbusters,
Hmm.
where the female uh, ghost nerd character, the goth girl, she's Hispanic, and she's got they even had episodes with her grandmother and stuff like that. But it's so to me, I always, and again, probably also because growing up with the Adams family, you have a character like Gomez Adams. Now, granted, played by John Aston, but the idea that goths can be Mexican, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it was nice to
you know,
see.
it was nice to see, and nice to see a nice interesting cast. I mean, when we get to Marge is cool too.
Now,
Um,
where have I seen Marge before? Because I feel like I've seen her somewhere recently. She's a
well,
really
her name is actually Hong Chow, which surprised me because I actually had thought she was Native American. She's actually apparently Asian. Um, so that's the whole thing. But she was in Downsizing. She was in The
ah
Menu. She plays Elsa in The Menu, and she's also in The Whale.
see, I've
So,
definitely seen her in Downsizing in the Whale. She's really
yeah,
really good.
yes, and let's see here. She's also in apparently The Night Agent.
Oh,
Okay,
heard good things about that too.
yeah. Um, but yes, and I'm not saying she's not native, but apparently with a name like Hung Chao, you're assuming she at least has a paternal line that is Asian. Um, but that's an assumption, and when you assume, you have problems. So anyway, but she's cool, and she's very cool, especially just on and I love the way that she kind of helps Charlie out when she gets there, and you see how, she gives her advice, especially on how you have to hide, how you have to be off the grid, and how anytime you get a ping, that is very dangerous for you, which actually makes me worry about her because she does get pinged in this, although hopefully she's keeping who she is a secret. Because apparently, because that's her thing, is she's got an uncle
engendered enough goodwill that people will look out for her.
Yeah. And but yeah, and makes the point about 4 hours after you use the ATM before someone finds you, which is interesting. I did love the fact that you see she's got her watch and she's watching the time. But again, one of the things I like in that is that when the bad guy comes to town, the people that she knows instinctively lie for her.
Right.
They make it very clear that no, she is like, oh yeah, no, she was here, but then she left. I think she said she was going to California because, she liked the sand and the beach, But anyway, as it plays, it's all very interesting. But let's get to the actual murder. So the murder comes about because the subway shop guy who used to be in the Marines, he wants to be protective of his friend because he knows this guy is really pushing things and making her uncomfortable.
And he has an eye for these sort of things. He mentions it too. He's like, I can tell when somebody's more dangerous than they appear. It's like that guy's got a unpredictable wildness in his eyes. That is really, really unsettling.
And he was right. Although it's interesting in that same way, there is this aspect where this is about people who are observing things and making note of things that other people maybe don't do. And within that structure, you have this idea of in the same way that our hero Charlie picks up on those subtle keys, these people pick up on those subtle keys as well. And it's interesting in this that while they're talking up there, the guy's making the point about you see this truck all the way over there, how it's
away from any sight lines of cameras, away from the other trucks.
Yeah, and just how that is exactly how what's the word I'm looking for? How he knows they're doing something illegal, which it turns out she is. And that's the thing. It's like, there's always two things can be true, as I always like to say. But the guy, he does get confronted by the ex-soldier who tells him to back off, and then he gets very indignant. It's like, hey, I've lived here my whole life. You just got here 8 months ago. Who are you to tell me what my relationship is with her? Yada, yada, yada. And they get into some nice philosophical talking. And the one guy's talking about everything's luck. And then the guy says, no, and it's not luck. It's what you make happen for you. And then, as luck would have it, the guy says, I don't even play these things to win. I just get them and I scratch them off because it's fun. It's a little game I play, which is why I gamble. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm always hoping I'll win. And this time, the guy goes, "Oh my gosh, I won!" And he's like flabbergasted and kind of loses himself because he suddenly realizes he won this money. That's a big deal. But then the other guy takes it, pushes him off.
He's already ranting and raving about how unfair the world is, that he was denied his birthright of luck. And that's why he's in the position that he is. And he says it to Charlie later too. He goes, man, I've already lost my opportunity. Man, the potential that I had, if I could have been somebody, right? He's having that moment. And in that moment, he's already lamenting the unfairness of the world. And then this guy who he knows she is kind of, not treating the same way she treats me. And, he just got done telling him he's a soldier and he already hates soldiers because they're actually doing something productive and he's not doing anything. And then he wins and he's like, oh my God, how much more unfair can the world be? How much more am I supposed to take? And it pushes him right over the edge.
Yeah. And it
and
is
every bit of like the coddling conversation he gave him, you got to make your own luck, anybody can do anything. He's like, you know what, yeah, I can just take this right now if I wanted to. I'm gonna make my own luck today.
yeah.
Man, oh
And
man.
then this is one of those things with it is like, yeah, he takes it, he makes his own luck, and then proceeds to do nothing with it.
Yeah.
That's like the truest aspect of it is that, this guy had opportunities his whole life and chose to complain about what he didn't have rather than figure out what he could make for himself.
Right.
I mean, I know that's a lot of bootstrappery, and I don't like to push that kind of a thought, but at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own health and welfare, especially if you're a young, able-bodied, and not to find a point on a white guy.
Even when you get a leg up and you still choose to do nothing, then you can't hide behind the fact that luck isn't there and that's why you didn't do anything. Right now, you have to recognize maybe it's me.
Well, and I think at the end it was him, and that's really that moral of that story. But it is neat, and just all the little mistakes that happen, because this was not a planned, premeditated murder. But the guy thinks well on his feet. I'll give him that much. I mean,
to a degree.
To a degree. Well, what it is he's smart enough to know what the limitations of the cameras are, what the cameras can and can't do, and maybe even how to delete video on it, because something happened there where stuff should have been on the camera that was not. And, and when he carries the guy across the street, I'm thinking he's got to get caught on that camera.
On the 35 other cameras that must be watching this little stretch of the highway.
Yeah, but actually, when we look at it, we realize that they don't go across the street because they're really interested in what's happening across the street. They want to see what's right in front of them. They're not looking that far out. They're looking for the parking lot, not across the street to where the cameras aren't, as the guy points out. But of course, that's where the dash cams come in handy. So, on one hand, you think, oh, this guy's definitely going to get caught. But then, you're like, oh, well, actually, I guess he did plan out at least somewhat. He was able to use his knowledge of the terrain and everything to solve his problems. And in that sense, kind of that ironic thing, what the soldier tells him, which is like, a guy like you, that's really important. You notice things, you see things, you could really achieve something in the military, Now, he doesn't like that because he doesn't want to do that because, they make you get up at 6 a.m. And his uncle probably doesn't because he's sitting on the roof at midnight.
Right.
So, I'm assuming this guy sleeps in and sets his own hours.
I mean, it seems like that's that kind of area because the other subway guy says, yeah, I just show up when I feel like it also. So,
yeah, well,
maybe that's just desert mindset, I don't know.
Well, it's on Route 66. And Route 66, even if there are parts that are well-traveled, they're not as well-traveled as they used to be. And this is in the middle of New Mexico. So, you've got a local population and they've got people that come and go. It's not like wherever she was before, which wasn't Reno, but it was like one of those smaller casinos outside of Reno, as I recall. And that gets foot traffic and things like that. And now she's going the other way. But within that, it is interesting the way that they build out the case because, of course, the guy, after he gets the ticket, he fakes it so he says he won it, and of course, while she's driving away after Marge has been arrested, because she knew Marge had a gun, she's thinking, well, I guess someone messed with her and she shot him. But then she hears on the radio that the guy was bludgeoned to death, and that's when she knows, that doesn't make sense.
And I love that by that time her clock is already ticking.
Yeah, and she's like,
Yeah.
but she figures she's got like an hour to get back. It's like she's still got a little time. And like I said, it's really great how they do that. How they trick the guy into handing over the lottery ticket real quick, and all that kind of stuff. And again, one of these interesting aspects of it, where it becomes what is always that Columbo problem. You can know I did it. How are you going to prove it?
Right.
He even makes the point to her, that your registration's in the car, Charlie Cale. You're a person of interest in several issues. And that's the thing. That's why this all becomes. He feels he has outsmarted her, but then she knows. Then she, in her time that she has left, she tries to figure out how they can get the video of it. She knows video probably exists because she knows these dash cams always are on, because that's the whole point of the dash cam. And she knows that there was a dash cam pointed at him, just has to figure out who it was. They do it. They get Pickleback back. And then you get, as she does leave, the cops coming in, which I do think is a really important aspect of this story, to show that for whatever else happens, we don't get a real resolution to anything. We see the guy burning the lottery ticket.
Lottery ticket.
Well, it's not useless. It's still $25,000.
No, but he can't claim it anymore.
Oh, I mean, yeah, arguably, but
I just heard a story the other day about there was an investigation happening that this guy stole this woman's winning lottery ticket and tried to turn it in. They're very specific about that. They can get a camera and be like, this serial number was sold at this time. Look at the person buying it. That wasn't you. They're very particular about it. I doubt he would have been able to cash it.
Although, and again, this is maybe one of those things about how useless this guy is, because the fact of the matter is, I mean, yeah, it's only been a day, but he could have, started the paperwork processing immediately to get it paid. He could have signed the back, he could have started the process, and then at least he's made his claim. But this guy's still just sitting with it in his pocket, knowing that he actually just stole it from another guy,
Yeah.
So
why he didn't get in a car and drive 1,000 miles away like he always said he wanted to is beyond me. But I guess that goes to show the killers always show up back at the scene, right?
Yeah. Well, or that if you're a loser, it's probably because you made some choices. Especially, and that's, I don't know. That's a controversial statement, because I know lots of people have lots of problems, and I have lots of problems too. I don't think myself better than anybody. But I do think that when people sit and complain about their life a lot, it's good to complain, and it's good to know what your threats are and problems are. But then you have to say, how am I going to address it? And how am I going to fix it? And whatever your concern is, even if you feel the world's against you, I know lots of people who feel the world's against them that still carry on and call out the world when they feel they're being treated unfairly. And do everything they can to keep themselves moving forward, because what else are you going to do? And a guy who's basically living on his uncle's garage, and what he's even doing, we're not even sure, except maybe doing a little roustabout work for his uncle, who probably owns the place, so he has some savings and all that kind of stuff. By the way, big shout out to John Ratzenberger. I was so happy to see him in this.
Cheers, right?
Yeah. That's who played the uncle, and he's got the hearing aids. He has to turn up and down, and it was a really great role for him. And I liked everything about him, in the sense that he was he is protecting his nephew, but he's also not gonna cause problems for anyone. But he's also not gonna acknowledge his nephew as someone above reproach. And when he realizes what his nephew did, that his nephew cut the brake cable on Charlie's car, he's like, yeah, you're on your own, kid. I gave you every opportunity.
Also,
I
I
loved
think
you like a son.
the implication at the end was that his hearing aids were turned up and he heard the entire conversation. So perhaps the cops won't listen to some vagrant, runaway or
Hmm.
whatever, but they are going to listen to an established businessman who's an established member of the community.
Yep, and the girl saw the lottery ticket too, and so, and again, like you say, everything about it plays out where he will get his comeuppance,
Mhm.
you know. And without $25,000, he's got no lawyer to protect him,
Mm-mm.
so he's gonna have to deal with the DA, and it'll be, he'll probably plead it out to aggravated assault, resulting in, accidental manslaughter, because he'll say, I just got excited and I pushed him and he fell. Of course, then hitting him with the crowbar, that's the hard
Yeah.
part.
And then on top of that, the charges of trying to pin it into somebody else, moving a
Yeah.
body, moving evidence. I don't know. There's 30 million charges they can put on.
Yeah, as you start to break it all out,
Yeah.
I'd put it this way. I think he'll get at least 20 years.
Yeah, especially since he has no money for a lawyer.
Yeah, that's the real crux of it. And it's just because he was a stupid criminal and he did something stupid, as most criminals do, because,
Yeah, as most people who think the world owes them something without having to work
yeah,
for it.
exactly, and it's weird, but I'm very glad we picked this show because
Mm.
I have been wanting to talk about it, and there's just so much that's going into it, and the character of Charlie, and it's almost this aspect where it's like, man, I would really love it if we could see more of these characters later. Like, I would love to see Marge again.
That was the one disappointment I had with this episode. I wanted to see Marge get out and be thankful and grateful and be and like I don't know whoever's chasing her. Maybe now that she has been arrested, the guy's there waiting for her. I don't know whoever's after her.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with it, and she's got to basically duck out and get out again fast as she
Yeah,
can. And her truck is gone, so she's got a lot of because they impound that.
but hey, at least she's not going to jail for murder.
Yeah, and she can probably get herself back to where she needs to be.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's the thing. And truth be told, it's a question of whether or not she gets pinged. Because
She got
if
arrested, she got pinged. You know what I'm saying?
no, I mean that's only if her prints were already in the system under her old name. That's basically how that works out. Like if she's not in a database
Look,
under her
if
old,
whoever's looking for it can find her off an ATM, they're definitely aware. If it's on the radio, some trucker was arrested and blah blah blah. I'm pretty.
yeah, I mean, well, the thing about an ATM is that it's tied to who you are. So when you use a credit card or an ATM, because that's the thing, it's about you can get fake IDs. Fake credit cards are a lot harder
Mm.
because you usually have to show an ID, and that's why she says fake IDs are great when you can get them, but it's best to be where people don't ask you for such things.
I'm pretty sure she got pinged.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to believe that someone that has the reach to be able to get a ping off of your credit card is not watching everything. Or I think she probably got pinged.
Yeah, and there's lots of possibilities with that. So I'm not gonna say she got out free, and I think that's probably why they didn't really tell more of that story, because I think even in the back of Charlie's mind, she knows, I really hope she got out.
Yeah.
I
And it's
can
not
do
like
what
Charlie caused her situation, right?
exactly.
That was
No,
happening incidentally anyway. If anything, she really did help her, so she has no reason to feel guilty.
exactly. And truth be told, as far as getting pinged, like I said, the ATM in the 4 hours, that's because you're watching the computer stuff. Getting arrested, it's maybe not as easy to see because that is slow. It's a local arrest. They may run her prints through the FBI database, but that might not even show up on some people's radar if they don't have access to that. There are certain things where it is a bit harder. And what Charlie's villain's advantage is that he does have those underworld ties. So like if she does show up in a poker game, that's gonna get pinged, because that's how he found her the first time. And it is just these ideas that, how is all of this going to come back to her? But we'll have to see. I mean, I'm hopeful that we see Marge again, because she was a great character and a great little lesson teacher. But I was hoping we were going to see our Elvis impersonator with the Playboys again too, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I don't know what happens in the next episode. I haven't finished watching it yet, but there's some great characters.
Really great about shows like this. If you're gonna make each episode have its own cast of ensemble characters, you really have to work hard to make those relationships work, to make those chemistries work, to make us care enough to let these characters go and adopt a whole new set of friends in the next episode. They really do nail it. Like that first scene before we ever get into the characters that we know, they introduce us to Damien and Jed and the goth girl. And I'm completely there. I'm completely wrapped up. I'm not antsy about, get to the main story, whatever. No. They're really doing a good job of casting the right people and making that work really, really well.
Yeah. Well, they're building out this little world that she's coming into.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great way to do it, because you build, and that's how they do it with Columbo. That's how they do it with most any kind of How Catch 'Em, is you come in and you meet all the people involved. Yeah. And hopefully they establish what everyone's relationships and motivations are early on.
Care.
Yeah, and make you care. But you got a bunch of charismatic actors, and not for nothing, even Colton Ryan, who is Jed. He's actually a very good charismatic actor.
Yeah, I mean, they made him really hateable. Really,
yeah, well,
right away.
Yeah, he definitely works as a character, and so I was very happy to see him. And as I said, of course, John Ratzenberger. How can you not love him? Everything he does. I'm a little sad we didn't get more of Benjamin Bratt. I hope we do get some more Benjamin Bratt as the show goes on.
I mean, we got a little bit of it, He
we got a little bit of him. We got like one interrogation scene, and that's cool. But I really like Benjamin Bratt as an actor, and so I hope to see more of him. Maybe even seeing an episode kind of from his perspective, where he sees all this stuff going on around him. And he knows that the Hulk is there, but he can't ever find it. It's like, like if you did a whole episode from Jack McGee's perspective,
right,
and everything's just hiding around the corner, and you're so close
every time.
Yeah, and I think that's a good one. I think that's a good trope to use.
Indeed.
With these characters. All right. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, I really, really enjoy how it just wraps everything up. Like SVU episodes or something like that. There aren't that many of those that give you a satisfying ending each episode. Everybody loves to leave you hanging. So I'm really enjoying it.
I am too. And I'm looking forward to see where it goes next. All I know for right now is they're going to Texas. And there's going to be barbecue. So you had me at barbecue. So if people liked this show and they want to talk to us about this show, they can write to us at CapesandLunatics, spelled out, at gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Or call us and leave us a voice message. Leave us a voice message with anything you're thinking about. If you want, we'll play it on air so everyone can hear your brilliant thoughts. You call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Likewise, go down to our show notes. Go to Linktree. That's linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics. There you will be able to buy merchandise, give us money through Cash App, or become a Patreon and actually get real hidden content that most folks never see. And Mozz, if people want to just reach out to you and talk to you and tell you how awesome you are, how can they do that?
Well, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in the old-fashioned email way where mothers and fathers once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I feel like it at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Ding.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, yes, curvy dogs. You've come to the end of another exciting adventure on the high seas of internet streaming services. Join us again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arg. All right.